Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com. It's in the description below. That's tmosso@the1916company.com for pricing. Today, we discuss a 2022 evolution of the Tudor Black Bay GMT that arrived in 2018. Now, in 2018, everyone was a little bit surprised to see Tudor launching a Pepsi bezel GMT the same year Rolex did. Well, Tudor goes back to the well of vintage Rolex styles. For 2022, they created this Black Bay GMT S&G Rootbeer. So S&G means steel and gold. So we have gold-plated indices and hands. We've got a gold bezel. We have a gold-wrapped crown and gold-wrapped center links on this rivet-style bracelet. So let's talk about the dimensions. Nothing really changes here from the standard Black Bay GMT. Still 41 millimeters in diameter, 14.5 millimeters thick, 50 millimeters lug-to-lug with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and get a quick look at it. It's an easy watch to wear. It's a little bit chunky, there's no doubt about that, but it puts its girth to good use with automatic winding, tons of water resistance, a long power reserve, and a useful complication. You can see being 50 millimeters lug to lug, it's fairly broad. My wrist is 16 centimeters circumference, and I think you probably want a 15 centimeter circumference wrist or larger to wear this well. Zoom out a little bit, show you the cuff shot. You can imagine that a dress cuff might get hung up, but a jacket sleeve should be just fine. Down the barrel, over the top. Now, the nice thing here is if you are borderline fit, say you have a 15 centimeter circumference wrist, there's no solid end link to this bracelet, so you can pull it vertically out of the lugs, making for excellent flexibility. Now, there is an integrating end link to better mate it to the case, and then there's a little bit of tapering down toward the clasp. We have outer links in steel, and then the inner links are steel but gold wrapped. And I don't know how well you could see this, but if you look carefully, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There's an electronic virtual zoom here. You might be able to see that underneath the cap of gold, there's actually a steel link beneath. And it is quite thick as a layer of gold. This is quite girthy, folded, and wrapped to last. It's not going to wear through. It's just a style we haven't seen in a long time. As rolled and wrapped gold, it used to be very popular before 1980, and I guess Tudor is bringing it back for a bit of richness. Now, the rivets are purely symbolic, skeuomorphic, a little bit like Neo-Palladian features or columns on postmodern architecture. It's there for appearance. These are assembled conventionally with internal pins, and then the removable links are fixed in place using screws. So if you want to size this, you can use your jeweler's screwdriver to remove those removable links. There's also a clasp with 3 pairs of divots drilled through, so you can use your spring bar tool to dismount that and change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. Taking a quick look at the clasp itself, you can see single fold, thick gauge steel, and then you have a clamshell lock. Notice that there are inner and outer spring-loaded pin snaps, so over time these metal parts cannot wear down the pin snaps, the idea being that it will remain snappy with time. Now, when closed, you can see it creates the image of the Tudor Shield logo that they've used since 1968. You'll find the same on the dial, though in a little quirk, there is the pre-1968 Tudor Rose logo on the gold-wrapped crown. Taking a look at the case, fairly simple, polished flanks, satin finished tops, and then we have this little bevel that runs along the side, a nod to the era when hand-laid bevels were finished onto the cases shared by both Tudor and Rolex Submariners. They used Rolex cases back then, and they would have had these little hand-laid bevels. Now, this is a mechanical bevel, but it's a nod to antiquity. There's a wonderfully narrow and sharp sort of micro-knurling on this crown that makes it really easy to grasp. It has a vintage-style root beer colored, or at least two-tone root beer inspired anodized aluminum insert. And then we've got a handset that recalls the Tudor Submariner snowflakes of the late 60s through mid-70s. Now, this is a bidirectional rotating GMT bezel, not a dive bezel, though the watch remains 200 meters water resistant. So the idea here is you set your local time, you set your reference time zone, this 24-hour hand, to Greenwich Mean Time or GMT, and then you apply the GMT offset plus or minus of your destination, and then you read that third time on the bezel against the 24-hour hand. So on a full-time basis, it has 2 independently settable time zones, one in 12-hour, one in 24-hour format, but by using that bezel, you can temporarily read a third time zone. The dial's matte black. We have a vintage chaptering style scale for reading seconds and minutes, and then you can see we have ecru or photina colored loom. We also have a date disc that matches the color of the loom, which is a nice touch. We'll do a loom shot here, and you can see that all four hands are luminescent, so you know it's running in the dark. You also can see your reference time. That 24-hour hand makes one circuit of the dial per day. It isn't a certified chronometer, that's a true fact. This is Tudor caliber 5652, automatic winding, 70-hour power reserve. It features the 1224 dual time hacking seconds, a 4 Hz beat rate, pivots on 28 joules. It's a 5-position adjusted COSC certified Swiss chronometer. It has a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for precise adjustment and shock tolerance. A free sprung balance is both tougher and able to permit very precise tuning of the timekeeper. And then it has an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring. All of this made by Tudor's Kinesi in-house movement manufacturer. And while not a dive watch, again, 200 meters water resistant, it is still quite tough in that regard. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.